The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cook, Quorum, Danielson, Donovan, Fenberg, Fields, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Gonzalez, Hanson, Heisey, Holbert, Hawkins Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Kolker, Lee, Liston,
Here.
Lundeen, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Simpson, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Winter,
Hello, Dave. Winter.
Donovan.
Senator Winters on the House floor.
Excused.
Woodward, Zenzinger, Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 34 present, 0 absent, and 1 excused. We have a quorum. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we suspend the rules to allow someone other than a senator to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And Senate Rule 1B will be suspended to allow another person other than a senator to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Members, this morning we have my son, Zan Garcia, joining us from Connect Charter School.
Good morning. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Zan, I just want to let you know, whatever your dad says, I think your hair looks great. Yeah! And you do not need a haircut.
I was opting for the military buzz cut. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the president be relieved of his duties and be replaced by his son this morning.
That would be a proper motion, but I don't know that he'd know how to proceed accordingly. Senator Sonnenberg.
Mr. President, I have no doubt that you brought him up correctly, that he would know how to proceed, but I'll withdraw my motion.
That's true. That's true. Proof. Will the clerk please add Senator Winter to the roll call? Approval of the journal. Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. And for the record, I love your hair. It's great. Your dad's isn't too bad either. I move the reading of the journal for Thursday, June 3rd, 2021 be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
June 4th, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 60, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bill 264, correctly revised House Bills 1030, 1110, 1134, 1166, 1171, 1196, 1198, 1209, 1216, 1230, 1233, 1250, 1254, 1260, 1263, 1264, 1275, 1276, 1280, 1281, 1289, 1294, 1302, 1313, 1314, 1316, 1318, correctly re-revised House Bill 1071, 1194, 1234, 1258, 1262, 1265, 1288, 1301, 1306, 1307, 1311, 1312, 1317, 1322, 1323, correctly enrolled Senate Bills 9, 25, 69, 154, 234, 235, 241, 244, 251, 254, 260, 270, 274, 275, 276, 277, 284, 287.
I'm bringing a problem.
Third reading of bills consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the title to all the bills on the consent calendar? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order for a moment of heartfelt and very personal privilege.
The motion is that we proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege from the good senator from Weld County. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted.
Mr. President, we request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I am deeply distressed and troubled today that we even had to come in on this momentous holiday, National Donut Day. This is a day that we should be sitting around with our families, giving thanks for everything that we've ever had, talking about those donuts that have gone before us, giving the ultimate sacrifice. We should be celebrating the donuts today. And we will ask for a moment of silence in a minute, and the Senate chimes ring.
For those who don't have donuts?
For those that don't have donuts, but as the world's okayest cop, I invite you to enjoy the world's okayest donuts in the back and the other donuts over here.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. In solidarity with my colleague from Weld County, I too want to honor all of you for participating in National Donut Day. Give yourselves a round of applause. Donut Day, everybody! We're so good at this.
Enjoy.
And
Enjoy.
oh, and I did want to say, public service announcement, by the way. I got those at Lamar's, and I think they're doing the same thing at other donut shops. You just walk in, they give you a free one. So, you know, if
Well,
you
these
want
are free.
another one. Oh, yeah, these are free.
And these are free too.
For all of you. But do have a good last couple of days, and I hope the sugar helps.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Third reading of bills consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the bills listed on the consent calendar?
House Bill 1030 by Representative McCluskey and McLean and Senators Buckner and Cook concerning expanding the Peace Officers Behavioral Health Support Grant Program to include community partnerships and in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1110 by Representative Ortiz and Senator Danielson concerning adding language to relevant Colorado statutes related to persons with disabilities to strengthen protections against discrimination on the basis of disability in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1166 by Representative Young and Will and Senator Zinal concerning training providers across the states in process and behavioral health crisis response as it relates to persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1196 by Senators Pico and Valdez D and by Representative Pico and Valdez D and Senator Zenzinger concerning the updating of the effective date of the Senate Bill 19263 as amended by Senate Bill 2152 for the purpose of ensuring that the bill accomplishes its intended legal effect of eliminating the requirements that the state treasurer execute lease purchase agreements to fund transportation products during the 2021-22 state fiscal year if referred ballot issue that authorizes the state to issue transportation revenue anticipation notes as approved at the November 2021 statewide election. House Bill 1230 by Representative Baisley and Tatone and Senators Zenzinger and Woodward concerning creation of a user-friendly state internet portal relating to state agency rules in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1260 by Representative Garnett and Catlin and Senators Donovan and Simpson concerning transfers of money from the general fund to implement the state water plan in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1263 by Representative Robertson, Soper, and Senators Rodriguez and Heisey concerning the creation of the Colorado Meeting and Events Incentive Program in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1275 by Representative Lantina and Will and Senators Janal and Kirkmeyer concerning reimbursement for pharmacist services under the Medical Assistance Act in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1280 by Representative Woodrow and Gonzalez Gutierrez and Senators Lee and Rodriguez concerning measures to assist defendants in securing release from jail through the bonding process in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1302 by Representative Herod and Doherty and Senator Winter concerning a grant program for small business affected by the economic hardship caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1316 by Representative Pico and Valdez D and Senators Kirkmeyer Moreno concerning changes to the term lease purchase as it relates to state or local public agreements to clarify that such agreements are to be accounted for by the state controller as finance purchases of assets or in connection therewith conforming to the Colorado revised statutes within the current accounting standards set by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bills 1030, 1110, 1166, 1196, 1230, 1260, 1263, 1275, 1280, 1302, and 1316.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills listed on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, are there any no votes on any of the bills listed on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280.
The Minority Leader will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280. Senator Lundeen.
Good morning, Mr. President. It's good to see you and part of your family in the podium today. Please record me, if you would, on House Bill 1280 as a no vote.
Senator Lundeen will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280. Senator Smallwood.
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280.
Senator Smallwood will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280. Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too wish to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280.
Senator Woodward will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280.
Senator Liston will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1280. Any other no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1030 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Bridges, Hansen, Janal, Buckner, Kolker, the Majority Leader, Woodward, Rankin, Hawkes Lewis, Simpson, Danielson, Quorum, Priola, Pedersen, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Sonnenberg, with a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1110 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Danielson, Moreno, Rankin, Gonzalez, Winter, Donovan, Buckner, Janal, Lee, Kolker, Pedersen, Bridges, Hansen, Story. The Majority Leader, Zenzinger, Fields, Quorum, Priola. Please add the President. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1166 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Simpson, Rankin, Kolker, Hawkes Lewis, Cook, Winter, Lee, Donovan, Bridges, Buckner, Story, Kirkmeyer, Priola, Heisey. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1196 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Woodward, Pedersen, with a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1230 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Simpson, Rankin, Danielson, Priola, Smallwood, Janal, Hansen, Kirkmeyer, Quorum, Lee, Pedersen, Kolker, Buckner, Story. Bridges, With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1260 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Colker, Bridges, Hanson, Hawkes Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Rankin, Story, Lee, Heisey, Cook, Priola, the Majority Leader, Lundin. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1263 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Zenzinger, Bridges, Simpson, Priola, Colker, Hanson, Donovan, Gonzalez, Winter, the Majority Leader, Rankin. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1275 is passed. Co-sponsors, Colker, Moreno, Cook, Hawkes Lewis, Simpson, Priola, Zenzinger, Coram, Rankin, Story, Donovan, Buckner, Fields, with 30 aye votes, 5 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1280 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Hawkes Lewis, Buckner. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1302 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Hawkes Lewis, Pedersen, Hanson, Bridges, Fields, Janal, Danielson, Buckner, the Majority Leader, Moreno, Gonzalez, Colker, Story, Lee, Zenzinger, Donovan. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1316 is passed. Co-sponsors, Priola, third reading of bill's final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1321?
House Bill 1321 by Representatives Kennedy and Weissman, Senators Moreno and Pedersen, concerning voter transparency requirements to increase information about the fiscal impact of statewide ballot raisers that will result in a change in district revenue in connection with making an appropriation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1321 lay over to the bottom of the third reading of bill's calendar.
The motion is that House Bill 1321 lay over to the bottom of the third reading's calendar. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and House Bill 1321 will lay over to the bottom of the calendar. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1216?
House Bill 1216 by Representative Valdez A. and Van Winkle and Senators Gonzalez concerning the ability for certain marijuana licensees to change the designation of marijuana from retail to medical.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1216 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I just want to applaud the good senator from Denver for making a number of improvements on second reading, and I will now be a yes on third reading where I was a no in committee. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1216 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senator Heisey. Senator Woodward. Simpson. Cook. Gardner. Rankin. Lundin. Kirkmeyer. Scott. With 25 aye votes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1216 is passed. Co-sponsors, Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Rodriguez, Hawkins Lewis, Smallwood, Janal. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1254?
House Bill 1254 by Representative Valdez A. and Larson, Senators Winter and Priola concerning regulation related to the ownership of a vehicle in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of House Bill 1254 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1254 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Gardner, Cook, Scott, Liston, Quorum, Woodward, Heisey, Simpson, Smallwood, Rankin, Lundin. With 22 ayes, 13 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1254 is passed. Co-sponsors. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1134?
House Bill 1134 by Representative Ricks and Senator Bridges concerning facilitating the reporting of tenants' rent payment information to consumer reporting agencies at the tenant's request in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. To help low-income families build credit without going into debt, I move House Bill 1134 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1134 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Priola, Gardner, Lundin, Cook, Simpson, Liston, the Minority Leader, Sonnenberg, Scott, Heisey, Rankin, Quorum, Woodward, Kirkmeyer. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1134 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Moreno, Rodriguez, Buckner. The Majority Leader, Hansen, Story. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1171?
House Bill 1171 by Representative Bradfield Tatone and Senators Buckner concerning the creation of the Kidney Disease Prevention and Education Task Force in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1171 on third reading and final passage. Urge and I vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1171. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Gardner, Lundin, Cook, Sonnenberg, Rankin, Scott, Liston,
It's for our kidneys.
Smallwood. With 25 ayes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1171 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Zenzinger, Danielson, Bridges, Janal, Danielson, Story,
1198 to be passed on third reading.
Pedersen.
And final.
Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1198?
You always write it. Good for you.
House Bill 1198 by Representative Judah and Senators Buckner and Colquitt concerning health care billing requirements for indigent patients receiving services not reimbursed through the Colorado Indigent Care Program and in connection with establishing procedures before initiating collections, proceedings against a patient, and making and reducing appropriations.
Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for House Bill 1198 for the adoption of 1198 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1198. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Sonnenberg, Cook, Gardner, Lundin, Simpson, Heisey, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Priola, Rankin, Coram, Scott, Liston, Smallwood. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1198 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Donovan, Fields, Janal, Hawkes Lewis, Rodriguez, Story, Gonzalez, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1209 lay over to the bottom of the third reading of Bill's calendar.
The motion is to lay over House Bill 1209 to the bottom of the third reading's calendar. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and House Bill 1209 will lay over to the bottom of the calendar. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill, Mr. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1233 lay over until Monday, June 7th.
The motion is that House Bill 1233 lay over until 6/7/21 and retain its place on the calendar. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1233 will lay over into 6/7/21 and retain its place on the calendar. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1276?
House Bill 1276 by Representative Kennedy and Harrod and Senators Pedersen and Priola concerning the prevention of substance use disorders and in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1276 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1276 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Gardner, Lundin, Liston, Scott, Kirkmeyer, Smallwood, Rankin, Heisey, Woodward, Cook. With 23 ayes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1276 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators, Mr. Majority Leader. Please add the President and Senator Gonzalez. Senators Moreno, Rodriguez, Story, Lee, Buckner. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1281?
House Bill 1281 by Representative Cutter and Will and Senators Pedersen concerning the creation of community behavioral health disaster preparedness and the response program in the Department of Public Health and Environment to ensure behavioral health is adequately represented within disaster preparedness and response efforts across the state in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1281 on third and final reading.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1281 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader. Senators Sonnenberg, Scott, Heisey, Lundin, Gardner, Woodward, Smallwood, Liston, Rankin, with 25, will you please add Senator Kirkmeyer as a no vote on House Bill 1281? With a vote of 24 ayes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1281 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Zenzinger, Hawkes Lewis, Story, Winter. The Majority Leader. Danielson, Buckner, Gonzalez, will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1294?
House Bill 1294 by Representative Burton, Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Senators Rodriguez, concerning an evaluation of statewide system use to measure the performance of the elementary and secondary public education system of the state in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1294 on third reading and final passage.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1294. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Gardner, Smallwood, Mr. Minority Leader, Cook, Heisey, Simpson, Scott, Woodward, Liston, Kirkmeyer. With Priola. With 23 ayes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1294 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Story, Gonzalez, Zenzinger, Buckner. Please add the President. Will the clerk please read the title to House
When you're a jet.
The good senator from Jefferson County will be fined $5 for creating that short musical interlude. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1313?
House Bill 1313 by Representative Benavides and Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Senators Gonzalez, concerning permitting the Office of Child Protection Ombudsman to initiate investigations on behalf of unaccompanied immigrant children who are housed in state licensed residential child care facilities in connection with their making appropriation.
Senator Gonzalez.
Mr. President, I respectfully move House Bill 21-1313 on third reading and final passage, and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is to pass House Bill 1313. Are there any no votes? Senator Sonnenberg, Simpson, the Minority Leader, Scott, Gardner, Cook, Woodward, Quorum, Lundin, Smallwood, Liston. With 24 aye votes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1313 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Lee, Winter, Janal, Story, Hansen, Danielson, Fields, Hawkes Lewis, Buckner, Fields, Please add the president. Please add the majority leader. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1314?
House Bill 1314 by Representative Herod and Gray and Senators Moreno and Rodriguez concerning the authority of the Department of Revenue to take action against certain documents and in connection therewith make an appropriation.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1314 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is passage of House Bill 1314 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Priola, Cook, Simpson, Sonnenberg, Smallwood, Scott, Liston. With 27 aye votes, 8 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1314 is passed. Co-sponsors. Hawkes Lewis, Bridges, Fields, Gonzalez, Story. The Majority Leader. Hanson. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1318?
House Bill 1318 by Representative Herod and Ortiz and Senators Garcia and Hawkins Lewis concerning the creation of the Outdoor Equity Grant Program and in connection with funding the grant program from lottery money and making appropriation.
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1318 on third reading and final passage, and I thank my co-prime sponsor, Mr. President.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is passage of House Bill 1318. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Lundin, Sonnenberg, Smallwood, Cook, Liston, Gardner, Scott, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Heisey. With 24 aye votes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1318 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Janal, Fields, Bridges, Priola, Moreno, Winter, Story, the Majority Leader, Pedersen, Danielson, Buckner, Donovan, will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 60?
Senate Bill 60 by Senator Donovan and Representative Roberts concerning broadband deployment and connection therewith making appropriation.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 60 on third reading, final passage, and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is passage of Senate Bill 60. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Sonnenberg, Woodward, Rankin, Smallwood, Lundin, Cook, Gardner, Kirkmeyer, Heisey, Liston. With 24 aye votes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 60 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Bridges, Moreno, Pedersen, Danielson, Story, Fields, Buckner, Hawkes Lewis. The Majority Leader.
Let me do this. I gotta say something.
Please add the president. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1289?
House Bill 1289 by Representative Kennedy and Senator Bridges and Priola concerning broadband deployment and connection therewith, codifying the Colorado Broadband Office and the Office of Information Technology, Creating Digital Inclusion Grant Program, the Broadband Stimulus Grant Program, and the Interconnectivity Grant Program, and making appropriation.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. To become effective on the passage of 291, I move House Bill 1289 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1289 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1289 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Hawkes Lewis, Sonnenberg, Rankin, the Majority Leader, Buckner, Simpson, Janal. Please add the President. Senator Pedersen. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1264?
House Bill 1264 by Representative Sullivan, Young, and Senators Colker and Heisey concerning the allocation of state money for workforce development activities to increase the skills of Colorado workers in the connection with making appropriation.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask the Senate's indulgence in offering a third reading amendment.
Would the good senator from Fountain please explain to the body why we should allow you permission to offer a third reading amendment?
The bill in its current configuration has a hard start date, and the money that will be used is still tied up in bills making their way through the system, and therefore we need to make it contingent upon those bills being passed and signed.
The motion before the body is to grant permission for the good senator from Fountain to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and permission is granted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L08?
Amendment L008.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L008.
To the amendment, Senator.
Sorry.
To the amendment, Senator.
To the correct amendment. Thank you, Mr. President. I move L008. To the amendment?
That's what he said.
To the amendment. To the bill.
To the amendment.
To the amendment, Senator. What is going on? Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. We actually had the amendment printed twice. One was 07, one was 08, so that's where the confusion was. So he had 07 in his hand, and I handed in 08. But it's the exact same verbiage. It just does exactly what you said before to make the date from a fixed date to one dependent on the passage of other bills, relying on their passage to fund this bill. So ask for an aye vote.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that we know who's on first, I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion regarding Amendment L08? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L08. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment L08 is adopted. To the bill. Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 21-1264 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1264 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1264 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senators Zenzinger, Moreno, Bridges, Buckner, Lee, Hansen, Story, Janal, Danielson, Hawkes Lewis, Pedersen, Gonzalez, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the immediate reconsideration of House Bill 1216.
The motion is for the immediate reconsideration of House Bill 1216. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1216?
House Bill 1216 by Representative Valdez and Van Winkle and Senator Gonzalez concerning the ability for certain marijuana licensees to change the designation of marijuana from retail to medical.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. My apologies, colleagues. I failed to request permission from the body to offer a third reading amendment.
Would the good senator from Denver please explain the need for a third reading amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. Because we ran amendments to encourage a study, to instruct MED to conduct a study and then delayed out the effective date of the entire bill, there's a technical amendment on the desk that would then clarify the implementation dates and the effective dates of the bill in its whole.
The motion before the body is to grant permission to the good senator from Denver to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted and permission is granted. There's an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L017?
Amendment L017.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L017 to House Bill 1216.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment is technical in nature and clarifies the effective date of 1216 is July 1, 2022, except that Section 6, the aforementioned study, will take effect upon passage. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L017. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment L017 is adopted. To the bill, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am forgetting my rules here. I move for the passage of House Bill 1216 as amended on third reading and final passage.
Motion is for the repassage of House Bill 1216 as amended. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Gardner, Heisey, Kirkmeyer, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Scott, Lundin, Rankin.
Do you actually have to move as amended on third reading?
No.
Yeah. That was confusing to me. But
Text him.
Did he do this one? End of vote.
With 26 ayes, 9 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1216 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno,
If you're on it, you're on it.
Hawkes Lewis,
Oh. Your bill.
did the amendment get
Mr. Majority Leader.
Was that a
Mr. Panetta, will you please add Senator Buckner as a co-sponsor?
It's getting confusing.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the immediate reconsideration of House Bill 1276.
The motion before the body is immediate reconsideration of House Bill 1276. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1276?
House Bill 1276 by Representative Kennedy and Harrod and Senators Pedersen and Priola concerning the prevention of substance use disorders in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I figure we all get one of these each session, right? So this is my first request to do this again. So thank you for the consideration. I forgot to add a third reading amendment, so I unfortunately have to ask for your permission to offer a third reading amendment.
The motion before the body is to grant permission to the good senator from Lakewood to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion is adopted, and permission is granted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L025?
Amendment L025 to House Bill 1276.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This changes, these are some technical changes on dates, and it helps with our PDMP integration, and ask for your support.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L25. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment 025 is passed. Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1276 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before the body is the repassage of House Bill 1276. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Lundin, Cook, Gardner, Heisey, Scott, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Rankin, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Liston. With 23 ayes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1276 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Lee, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the immediate reconsideration of House Bill 1294.
The motion is that we take up House Bill 1294. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have, and the motion is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1294?
House Bill 1294 by Representative Burton Gonzalez Gutierrez and Senator Rodriguez concerning an evaluation of the statewide system used to measure the performance of the elementary and secondary public education system of the state and in connection with making appropriation.
I think he's changed.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1294 on third reading and final passage. I really ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1294. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Gardner, Simpson, Cook, Scott, Liston, Woodward, Priola, Smallwood. With 25 ayes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1294 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Zenzinger, Rodriguez, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will stand in senatorial 5. The Senate will come back to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order to take up House Bill 1209.
The motion is to proceed out of order to take up House Bill 1209. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and the Senate will take up House Bill 1209. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1209?
House Bill 1209 by Representative Gonzalez and Gutierrez and Doherty and Senator Lee concerning offenders who committed an offense when under 21 years of age and in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1209 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the discussion and dialogue we had yesterday about this bill. I think we got away from some of the basics of what we're talking about with this bill. It's really a bill about public safety. And the reason I say that is the people who are eligible for participation in the JCAP program are all eligible for parole. They all will be getting out of prison. None of them are serving life sentences. In fact, 97% of the people in prison get out. So wouldn't we be better off having people who are going to get out of prison go through a program that is research-based, evidence-based, and promotes the kinds of values that we want it to promote? Right now, the recidivism rate at the Department of Corrections is around 50%. In other words, within 3 years after people get out of prison, half of them go back. We need to bend that curve. We need to set up some programs that actually reduce the opportunity of, or the likelihood that people will recidivate. So that's the main purpose of this bill, and it is a successful program in the Department of Corrections because it is rigid. It is rigid in that everyone has to go through about 4 screens before they even get into the program. They have eligibility criteria that are statutory that they have to comply with before they can get in the program. And those statutory criteria include that they are not in a treatment program, they've obtained a high school diploma or equivalency, they've participated in programs offered to them by the Department of Corrections, and they have demonstrated responsibility and commitment to the programs, and they also have to demonstrate statutorily, in order to get into program, positive growth and change through increasing developmental maturity and quantifiable good behavior during the course of the program. Then when they're in the program, they also have to be program compliant. If they are not, they are bounced out. The latest report that came out, if some of you are interested, there was a report put out by the Department of Corrections on the status of Senate Bill 16180, the Juvenile Reintegration Program. And what it tells us is that the number of people who are accepted into the program, 46 applications were received, less than half were accepted. 21 were accepted and 25 were denied. And the ones that were denied based on not having positive growth in their institutional behavior. So what we're talking about is people who are screened carefully before they get in the program. The program has evidence-based factors when it was set up according to the criteria, utilizing evidence-based and best practice implementation, considered many factors of life skills, criminogenic factors to create goals and curriculums to address inmate needs in mental health, life skills, education, work-related topics. And then once they're in the program, there are serious requirements and didactic work going on to teach foundations of independent living. Keep in mind, the people that are in these programs are people who were originally anticipated of not getting out for 20, 30 years. they will now be taught some of the skills that they will need when they get out, such as financial literacy, technology, life skills. They move to phase 2. They develop short and long-term goals, and they build experience and understanding of the outside world, which they have not seen in decades. Some of these people went to prison when George Bush and Bill Clinton were president. Then they move into stage 3, where they get career technical education, apprenticeship programs, and industry-recognized certifications identified in the inmates' long-term goals. So they go through these programs, and then that's the third screen. The fourth screen, they have to go in front of the parole board. And then the fifth screen is they have to be approved by the governor. So rigorous program in order to get in. Keep in mind, if people, they're going to get out, period. Wouldn't we be better off putting them through a program which gives them the skills, the capabilities, the background to succeed on the outside? We can spend a lot of time talking about the grievousness of the crimes. That is undeniable. We can talk about how brutal they were. We can talk about the harm that was done. That is all undeniable. But the fact is, these people are going to move on and they are going to get out. What are we going to do about it? The purposes of sentencing under the Colorado law include acceptance of responsibility, punishment, and capability to not return to the Department of Corrections. So this bill is consistent with those goals. One other thing I wanted to mention, now that I've got your rapt attention, is that this bill has limits on who gets in. People serving life without parole are ineligible to get in the program. If the governor, in his opinion, and the governor has pretty vast powers to grant early parole, existing law says if, in the governor's opinion, extraordinary mitigating circumstances exist and the inmate's release from institutional custody is compatible with the safety and welfare of society, those are the standards. However, this is the new language added to the bill. It makes it tougher for the governor to release someone on early parole. Nothing in this section grants the governor the authority to grant early parole pursuant to the provisions of this section to an inmate serving a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. So again, the people who would be eligible for this program, if they're serving life without, they can't get in. If they've got a sex offense or sexual basis of their offense, they cannot get in. If they've spent time in mental institutions, they cannot get in, and then the program screens them very carefully. So I would urge support for this bill. It's a limited bill. There are, according to the fiscal note, 21 offenders who qualify, 5 others that may qualify, and 15 others who are in the pipeline who need to serve more time to meet the minimum eligibility requirements of 20 to 30 years. But this bill will ensure that when offenders are released, and they will be released, are released with life skills, employment skills, computer skills, socialization skills. So this bill is about public safety and making the communities safer. Thank you for your attention. I encourage your vote for this bill.
Further discussion on 1209, Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam President. If you vote for this bill, I want you to remember one name, Brandy Duvall. On May 31st, 1997, Jeffco Sheriff's Office was dispatched to a body in Clear Creek. The body belonged to a girl, Brandy Duvall, and I want you to remember that name. She was laying on her back, her face turned to the sky, her eyes closed, her head was nearly in the water, her bare feet pointed up to the hill, a pair of silver-colored handcuffs behind her hands, handcuffed behind her on her hands behind her back. She was covered in blood. let me tell you again what they found at the autopsy, because a lot of people weren't here yesterday, and unfortunately a lot of people aren't here today, aren't here listening to what happened to Brandy Duvall, the 14-year-old girl who was murdered in Jefferson County and body dumped. At the autopsy, the pathologist noted a bruise to her left side of her face that appeared to have been made with a fist. There was a large bruise on her chest, as well as other bruises and abrasions on her arms and legs, which indicated that she'd struggled. The medical examiner counted 28 stab wounds to Brandy Duvall, all made with a sharp, single-edged knife. Some were to her chest, but most, including the fatal wounds, were to her back and neck. Her carotid artery and jugular vein had been pierced. She then bled to death. The most horrifying wounds, though, were not the ones that killed her. There was an obvious bite mark on her left breast. Her anus and rectum were badly bruised, purposely cut with a sharp blade. The last night of the girl's life was a living hell. It took several days to identify her. She died 2 months shy of her 15th birthday. This is the kind of guy that we're going to let out of prison. He was convicted of the murder, and he was convicted of sexual assault, too, so he would not be eligible. But unfortunately, he got a resentence, and the appeals court, on some quirk, dismissed the sexual assault charge. So even though she was raped and stabbed 28 times and body dumped, this killer is eligible for this program. I heard yesterday the sponsor say, hey, these are the best, the ones that can come out. These are the worst of the worst that we're allowing out. And the sponsor said today, hey, they're going to get out anyway, so let's just put them in this program. Yeah, they're going to get out eventually, maybe, after they serve the maximum time given by the court. By that time, hopefully, they'll be too old to commit further crimes. But we're letting them out early. Problem with this bill, too, is there's no statistics, there's no facts, there's nothing to back up that the program works. Tried to run an amendment yesterday to put it off for, a year or two so we can get the information on the 10 that have already been released under this program, who were juveniles, I might add, under 18. Why didn't we wait a year or two to see if the program actually works before we expand it to 18, 19, 20-year-olds, like the killer of Brandy Duvall, who will be eligible for this program? Again, if you vote for this bill, I want you to remember that name, Brandy Duvall. 14-year-old girl, raped, stabbed, anus and rectum bruised by a sharp knife. Let's think about the victims instead of the criminals for once. You can stand with victims today, or you can stand with murderers, rapists, people who dump 14-year-old girls' bodies in Clear Creek. I, for one, don't want to stand with a person like that. I'd rather stand with Brandy Duvall and her family. Let's not re-victimize her. Let's not re-victimize her family and the families of others that have been murdered in this state. Colleagues, I ask for a no vote on 1209.
Further discussion, Senator Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President. Thank you. If this were a different forum with a person with a black robe up front, I would stand and say, objection, Your Honor, irrelevant. The circumstances described by my esteemed and honored colleague do not apply under this. They are horrendous, they are outrageous, they shock the conscience. But sex offenders are excluded from this bill. The bill describes the existing law for JCAP said sexual abuse is excluded. This bill expands it and says any offense for which the underlying factual basis is a sex offense is excluded. That's for one of the people. The other ones were over age 21 when they engaged in these horrendous acts, so they're irrelevant to this discussion. Horrendous, outrageous, despicable, bestial crimes, it's not part of this bill. This bill deals with people who committed their offenses when they were 18, 19, or 20, or juveniles. So all of the offenders except one would not be covered under this bill, but it's an outrageous set of circumstances designed and intended to inflame the passions, but irrelevant. The one juvenile offender, the exclusion for sexual offenses would be applicable in this case. I want to reiterate, this bill narrows the existing JCAP program. Under the existing JCAP program, the governor has broad discretion to grant early release and early parole. We said, despite that, the governor's authority to release people does not exist if those people are serving life without the possibility of parole. So this bill narrows the governor's authority in that respect, and it is a limited bill as far as sexual offenses being excluded. Thank you.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess if I was wearing black robe too, I would say irrelevant to the last argument, because once again, I'll repeat what I said. The person in this case was sentenced to rape or sexual assault. But then the Court of Appeals said, well, on some kind of quirky thing, that no longer applies. So he does not have that conviction now anymore for raping Brandy Duvall. So he would be eligible. So I would say irrelevant to the last argument. And let's face it, people go to prison all the time, and some of their sentences are overturned, or revisited and revised. And the murder of Brandy Duvall, the man that stabbed her, punctured her anus, stabbed her 28 times with a knife, his rape conviction was overturned. But the murderer wasn't. So Brandy Duvall's murderer, and I keep repeating that name because I want you all to know it. And when her murderer gets this program and gets out of prison early, I want you to remember her name and I want you to remember this day. So her murderer is eligible under this program. Just like the murderers of so many other people in this state who commit brutal acts. Yesterday, I mentioned I laughed at the declaration because it is so laughable. Colorado is committed best practices in the development of implication of correctional policies and practices. Best practices support the release of offenders who no longer present a threat to the safety of other persons in the community. How do we even know that when we haven't even been able to look at the effectiveness of this program? And this is the laughable part too. Colorado is committed to providing victims the opportunity to be advised and heard regarding the release of offenders who have committed serious crimes as well. Are we really committed to the victims? I think not.
This state, especially this year and last several years, committed to inmates, committed to criminals and getting them out of prison. To even have this in the legislative declaration is a joke. Colorado is committed to providing victims the opportunity to be advised and heard regarding the release of offenders. Sad. Again, colleagues, I want you to remember that name, Brandy Duvall. And I wish I had the names of all the other murdered victims and their family names so we could honor them instead of honoring murderers and criminals. Thank you, Madam President.
Further discussion, Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to thank the good senator from Greeley for his remarks and saying the names of crime victims. What's important when you say the name of a crime victim, you understand that sometimes good things happen, bad things happen to good people. Sometimes people are minding their own business, doing innocent, humble things, and someone decides to commit murder. So bad things do happen to good people. And when that happens, we are a state and a nation of laws. There's consequences that are associated when bad things happen to good people. So my message today is to the young people in the state of Colorado as it relates to this House Bill 1209. My message is simple. Think twice before you do anything immediately. Always consider the consequences for your actions. Think twice. I'm compelling the young people of the state of Colorado to think twice. Don't worry about the math and the calculation as it relates to House Bill 1209, thinking that, I can do this and I might get whatever time after you calculate. Think twice. I'm telling the young people, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, think twice. It's no fun being in jail, even if they give you a carve-out of free time or reduce your sentence. I'm compelling the young people in the state of Colorado, our youth, to plant a seed for your future, and your future does not include violence. Think twice. And thinking twice means that you have to be rational and logical before you act. So to the young bloods of the state of Colorado, I'm asking you to think twice. I know that we don't always get it right every time. And we know that people make mistakes, because making mistakes is a part of learning. It's a part of growing. But please, before you commit any act of violence, understand how that plays into your purpose, your destiny, and your potential, and your success. Think twice. And as you're thinking twice, I want you to be mindful of the common good. We have a social contract, not only in the state of Colorado, but in our nation. And the social contract means that you don't commit murder. So this is where I want to share a personal experience with you. You've heard it before. And I'm going to always tell my story. I'm going to always stand on my story because I'm not going to lay down in pain and grief. My son witnessed a murder. He told what he saw. He told what he heard. And then the police came over to the house. And they said, we're going to show you a photo lineup so you can pick out who committed this heinous crime against your son. And I talked to my son. Do you want to do this? Think twice. Because in some communities, people run away from the police. They don't cooperate with the police. But my son did not waver. He told me, Mom, you told me to always do the right thing. He said, let me tell you what I saw. I saw my best friend at a park get shot down in his chest. He fell to the ground, and the shooter went over to him and shot him 2 more times. He said, I can't live without being silent. I don't want to live with that memory of not saying what I heard and what I saw. And he was traumatized because of it. He never wavered. So 5 days before the trial was to begin, the offenders, the criminals, ambushed and shot my son and his fiancée dead. Right now, the offenders are serving life in jail without parole. They were given the death penalty, but we know what happened there. And when they committed this murder, they were 19. But now, they're spending a lifetime in the Department of Corrections, DOC. You know why? Because they didn't think twice. They didn't think about the consequences. So I'm standing in front of you today because I see myself as a surrogate for everyone who has been harmed by crime. I've thought once, I've thought twice about this bill, and I can tell you that I'm voting no on this bill because I know that bad things happen to good people. And everyone has a right to the promise of their life. No one has a right to take away someone else's life and for there to not be consequences for it. That's my position on House Bill 1209.
Further discussion. Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Madam President. I too rise in opposition to House Bill 1209. Wow. I'm known for choking up when I talk about things that are hard, things for which I have passion. Sometimes my voice cracks. And I've said before, I'm honored to serve with a good senator from Aurora because she can stand here and give that testimony, not a tear, not a cracked voice. It's real. It's life. It's not a pitch. It's not a philosophy. It's real. It's life. And Senator, I hope that people who need to hear that message will hear it, either now or in the future. You are a tremendously powerful witness, and I'm grateful for your message, and I'm grateful to serve with you. This is a tough bill, and it might just fall along party lines, but that is the kind of testimony, that's the kind of message that comes from this well that we are all 34 of us, are wise to heed, to listen to. Has law enforcement come to your door and rung the doorbell, knocked? Has law enforcement come in your home and encouraged you to have a seat? Has law enforcement shared that news? It might be an accident, a car wreck, something like that, but in this case it wasn't. It was violence brought against the senator's son and, I believe, her future daughter-in-law. It's a story about courageous people who did the right thing because, boy, no doubt they were raised right. And they had a great example. Have you had to go to the morgue? Have you had to sit in a courtroom for days and weeks? Appeals, and finally a conviction. Have you had to run for office with all that experience? Have you had to stand up to a governor and win? Have you had to stand up to a different governor and lose? I supported a bill earlier this session that the good senator from Aurora advocated passionately against, but on this one I am proud to stand with her. I can't add anything to her testimony. I have said before that it means a great deal to me because when I ride my bike or walk the path under C-470 just south of Park Meadow Mall, I go right past the place where the body of her son was found. It's not anything about me, it's just a coincidence of where it happened, where his body was found. But I ask you, members, listen, think, feel. Put yourself in the senator from Aurora's shoes. If you haven't had those painful experiences, good. Thank you, God. But I'm also thankful that we have the witness of our colleague from Aurora who can stand here and just boldly share that story. And there's been times we've disagreed, there's times we vote differently on bills. But Senator, there's times like this where I just couldn't be more proud to stand with you and ask for a no vote on 1209. God bless you.
Further discussion. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam President. I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will stand in recess.
No, or 1321. So we have 1321 and 12.
Correct, yeah, so.
We're gonna lay all three.
I'll just lay the ballot. Where are the votes? And then,
The Senate will come back to order. Please mark Senator Liston as excused. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the balance of the third reading of bills calendar lay over until later today.
The motion is to lay over the balance of third reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the balance of the third reading of bills calendar will be laid over. General orders, second reading of bills. Oh, correction, Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, we are going to do a special orders calendar on seconds. It will be largely the bills that are on Monday's calendar, but we are going to do a brief senatorial 5 so we can get that calendar ready and so it's clear what we're doing and in what order. We'll pass that out in just a few minutes. Madam President, I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will stand in recess. Senate will come back to order. Majority Leader Fenberg. Should I test myself?
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate take up House Bills 1101, 1111, and 1261 on special order, second reading of bills consent calendar at the hour of 12:15.
The motion is to take up special order second reading of bills consent calendar, which includes bills 1101, 1111, and 1261 at the hour of 12:15. This does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will take up special order second reading bills consent calendar, including House Bills 1101, 1111, and 1261 at the hour of 12:15. Special orders second reading bills consent calendar, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate resolve itself, Committee of the Whole, consideration of special orders, second reading of bills consent calendar.
The motion is to take up special orders second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself into Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders second reading of bills consent calendar, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
Nice. The committee will come to order, and the coat rule was already relaxed. Will the clerk please read the titles for all of the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1101 by Representative Ransom and Senator Buckner concerning preserving familial connections and actions initiated pursuant to the Children's Code and in connection with making appropriation. House Bill 1111 by Representative McKean, Senators Bridges and Gonzalez concerning the possession of certain personal information by governmental entities. House Bill 1261 by Representative Catlin and Cutler and Senators Quorum and Janal concerning the extension of the sales and use tax exemption for beetle kill wood products and in connection with making appropriation.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move all the bills in the special order second reading of bills consent calendar and their associated committee reports, which includes House Bill 1101, House Bill 1111, along with the Finance Committee report, and House Bill 1261, along with the Appropriations Committee report.
Any discussion of these excellent committee reports? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of all the committee reports in the special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those committee reports are adopted. Any discussion of the bills on the consent calendar? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of all the bills in the special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and all of those bills are adopted. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee to rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Committee will rise and report.
I could do it tonight. Not you, no.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Madam President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report as having consideration of the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1101, House Bill 1111 as amended, House Bill 1261 as amended, passed on third reading, order revised and placed on calendar for third reading, final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1101, 1111 as amended, and House Bill 1261 as amended passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, we're going to go into the special order second reading of bills calendar, but first just want to make an announcement that The conference committee for House Bill 1251 is meeting at 12:30 in room 107. The conference committee for House Bill 1301 is meeting at 2 o'clock in room 107 today. Madam President, I move that the Senate take up House...
No, it's at, 1251 is at 2. Those two things are flipped. They're flipped. Aren't you glad we listened to your announcements?
For the record, Morgan messed up.
Morgan is perfect.
The
Strike
majority
that.
leader will be fined $2 for ever saying anything bad about Morgan.
Only 2?
For the record, Andrew messed up.
The majority
That's
leader will
not
be
finable.
fined $2 for ever saying anything bad about Andrew.
Sine die?
Oh, I'll pay for
Motion? Madam President, correction, House Bill 1301 is meeting at 12:30 in room 107. House Bill 1251 is meeting at 2 o'clock in room 107.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate take up House Bills 1005, 1014, 1271, 1285, and 1286 on special order second reading of bills at the hour of 12:22.
The motion is that the Senate take up House Bill 1005, 1014, 1271, 1285, and 1286 at the hour of 12:22 on special order second reading of bills. This requires a 2/3 majority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will take up on special order second reading of bills, House Bills 1005, 1014, 1271, 1285, and 1286 at the hour of 12:22. Special orders second reading of bills, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate resolve itself to committee of the whole for consideration of special orders second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will take up special orders second reading of bills, and Senator Bridges will take the chair as committee of the whole. A little bit out of order, but all the words got there.
As long as the words are there. Do you mind if I move this off?
That's the president's.
Okay. I'm going to move it off. Yep. Ready? The committee will come to order, and the code rule has already been relaxed. If it is not relaxed for anyone, it is now relaxed for all of those people, and the tie rule and any other rule I can relax. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1005?
House Bill 1005 by Representative Mullica and Caraveo and Senators Garcia concerning the establishment of the Health Care Services Reserve Corps Task Force, and in connection with making an appropriation.
Oh, there he is.
Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I move House Bill 1005 and the Appropriations Committee report.
As well, excellent. Thank you, Senator Garcia. To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, the president will be fined $2 for referring to the chair as the president.
For those of you who don't know, I'm kind of new to this process. I move the Appropriations Committee report, which appropriated the $102,605 for the .5 FTE. I'd encourage an aye vote.
That is an appropriate motion. The question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members, in all honesty, this is an important bill. We talked about it in committee. House Bill 1005, which would create a health care services reserve corps task force, would help, especially not only what we saw in the midst of this pandemic, providing additional healthcare offices and helping to provide Coloradans with the needs that would be needed, especially in the challenges. Often, especially in the EMS world, we see training for these pandemics, and some of this is coordinated at the federal level. But we also recognize that that's not always been a true statement at the state level, and encourage an aye vote on this important policy.
Thank you, Senator Garcia. Well spoken, well moved. It is a pleasure to have you here in the Committee of the Whole. The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1005. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1014?
House Bill 1014 by Representative Michael Janae and Basley and Senators Danielson concerning the ability of a person to voluntarily disclose disability information to the Department of Revenue and in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1014 and the Transportation and Energy Report and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Transportation and Energy Report.
I urge an aye vote.
Question before us is the adoption of the Transportation and Energy Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The report is adopted. Any discussion for appropriations?
None.
Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good bill, vote yes.
That is well argued. All those in favor of House Bill 1014 say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of the House Bill 1271?
House Bill 1271 by Representative McCluskey and Judah and Senators Gonzalez concerning the establishment of programs offering state assistance to local governments to promote the development of innovative, affordable housing strategies in a manner that is compatible with the best local land use practices in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1271 along with the local government and appropriations reports.
To the local government report. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Local Government Committee, we moved an amendment to help clarify some of the intent around equity in this bill. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the local gov report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that report is adopted. To the appropriations report. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Appropriations Committee, we appropriated the appropriate funds. I ask for an aye vote.
That is an appropriate motion, an appropriate request. All those in favor of adopting the Appropriations Committee report say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill. There is an amendment coming to the desk. And there is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L007 007?
Amendment L 007.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L007 to 1271.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I referenced the amendment that we put on in local government around equity, but we wanted to further clarify that language to help local government include it in their planning processes. This amendment was requested by Housing Colorado and agreed to by CCI and DOLA. There also is some language related to ADUs that recognize that for ADUs, some local governments may need to get more infrastructure in place to prepare for the ADUs as a tool. That aspect of L007 was requested by CCI and agreed to by DOLA. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of L007. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. There is another amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L010?
Amendment L010.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L10 to 1271.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is technical in nature and corrects the subsection reference from subsection 6B to subsection 6C. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the technical L010. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that amendment is adopted.
Thank you.
To the bill.
I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1271. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1285?
House Bill 1285 by Representative Benavides and Harrod and Senators Hawkins, Lewis, and Buckner concerning the allocation of general fund money to provide support to creative arts industries in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move House Bill 1285 and the Local Government Committee report and the Appropriations report.
To the Local Gov report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We were fortunate enough to have an amendment in the Local Government Committee that actually increased the amount of funding, and so we needed to adjust the bill to take into account that increase in funding.
Sounds like an explanation of local government and appropriations committees. The question before us is the adoption of the local government report. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the report, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Local gov report is adopted. Is there any discussion of the appropriations committee report? Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The appropriations report is what you can assume. They appropriated the money for the bill.
I try never to assume anything, but the question before us is the adoption of the appropriations committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the bill, is there any discussion? Senator Jaquez Lewis.
We just ask for your aye vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a great bill to help our creative industries. And one of the features that I am especially proud about is the Tier 3 cultural facilities who are nonprofit organizations. And I have a couple of those in my Senate district, and I'm excited because they need our support and our help, and they need relief. And I am asking for an aye vote on this bill.
Thank you, Senator Buckner. Is there any further discussion? I saw someone raise their hand as I was asking the question in the last one, so I want to make sure there's a pause to allow anyone who would like to comment on this bill to step forward. Raise your hand somewhere in the chamber.
No.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1285. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of the House Bill 1286?
House Bill 1286 by Representatives Kipp and Valdez A. and Senator Priola and Pedersen concerning measures to improve energy efficiency in connection with requiring owners of large buildings to collect and report energy use benchmarking data and comply with performance standards related to energy and greenhouse gas emissions and modifying statutory requirements regarding energy performance contracts.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1286 and the Finance Committee report.
To the Finance Committee report.
Members, there were a number of amendments in finance, but the major one was L025, which was the main bone of contention in the bill up to that point, which, let me find my notes on it, creates a task force and gets rid of the mechanism that was in the bill when it was introduced.
Friend, Senator Pedersen.
I think that he said it well. It was just the task force for recommendations, and we ask for your support.
Excellent. Thank you so much. The question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that Finance Committee report is adopted. To the bill. And Senator Priola, there is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L031?
Amendment L031.
Senator
House Bill
Priola.
1286.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I move L031.
Moved. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this amendment simply clarifies the bill further. Don't necessarily think it's necessary, but it pleases some folks that have an issue. Ask for an aye vote.
Question before us, is there any further discussion of L031? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L031. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. I have a sense there's another amendment coming to the desk, perhaps from a senator from Lundeenville. And indeed, there is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L029?
Amendment L029 to House Bill 1286. Amend the Finance.
Senator Priola?
No.
Nope. Senator Lundeen?
Mr. Chair, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, Senator.
I move Amendment L029 to House Bill 1286.
So moved. To the amendment.
Thank you. So we'll get into the bill in a little bit more detail. This is a bill that is kind of in many ways like trying to capture mist in a bottle, but we can talk about all of what that means later. It creates a task force to get into trying to figure out how to best save global climate or solve the global climate crisis by virtue of changing the buildings of Colorado. We specifically have challenges. If you've ever been to a civil aviation airport and seen the big hangars that they roll the planes in and out of, the fronts of those buildings are doors. I mean, you just can't energy efficient them the way you would a building. And so there are some significant and substantial challenges specific for the aviation industry. This amendment simply says, hey, let's put a member of the aviation industry on the task force to do the work to figure out if there's a way to get to that. So I urge your support of Amendment L029.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the concerns around this, and the reason why we set up this task force is we wanted to have the experts give us our advice and take into consideration these different types of buildings and how to go about it. We don't want to just appoint people from different industries, and so while I know the intentions are good here, I don't support it.
Senator
For your no vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I had conversation over the weekend with the gentleman who's been very diligent at continually bringing this issue up. I pointed out to him that hangars were already in the bill, and with L025 in finance, there are plenty of opportunities for folks with expertise to be on the task force. In short, I simply think this amendment won't fly. I ask for a no vote.
Wow. That was very punny, Senator Priola. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of L029, and let me be plain.
These puns are going to crash and burn if they keep up like this.
I am blessed to represent Senate District 30. Starts at County Line Road, and if you come down I-25 to County Line Road and turn east, you will find that County Line Road doesn't go through east to west because the runways of Centennial Airport, north-south, run between, I think, the good senator from Centennial's district and mine. The people at Centennial Airport, I believe one of, if maybe still the largest busiest civil aviation airport in the state, possibly in the country, there are a lot of hangars out at that facility. Those hangars are where airplanes can be stored. Those hangars can be where shells of airplanes can be fitted out, the assembly completed. You might buy a running chassis from Cessna, I think in Kansas, bring it to Centennial Airport, and then finish the assembly of that airplane to be an air ambulance or a personal aircraft or whatever it might be. There are a lot of hangars at Centennial Airport, and they are used for many different purposes. For that industry to ask for a representative of that industry who has familiarity, experience with these types of buildings used in the aviation industry is not picking and choosing. It's not having to include people from all different kinds of industries. It's recognizing that the aviation industry in Colorado is a significant industry. My former colleague from the House, Representative Kraft Tharp, I'm not sure who represents that Senate district, someone in Jefferson County, maybe my friend there, the chair of the Education Committee. There's a civil aviation airport in that district, just like there is in the district that I represent. These are very large, very specialized buildings, and my friend from Monument made a valid point. One of the inherent characteristics of those very large, very expensive buildings is that the fronts of them are doors. They open to the environment so that planes can get in and out. The heating and air conditioning in those buildings is specialized. It's different than, say, a shopping mall or a grocery store or an office building or other large structures. This amendment, L029, doesn't undermine the bill. It respects that we have a very robust aviation industry in this state, and that legislation has been passed to create jobs, to encourage economic development in those airport enterprise zones, like at the Civil Aviation Airport in the good senator from Jefferson County's district, and the 2 senators here in your chamber who represent the ground that comprises Centennial Airport. Again, one of the busiest civil aviation airports in the nation. At sometimes, I think, the busiest. And it isn't just wealthy people coming and going on private jets. There's commerce there. There are companies that build and retrofit and refurbish and final assembly on aircraft that come from all over the country, possibly all over the world, and then go all over the world. Aerospace in Colorado is important. Aviation in Colorado is vitally important. We are centrally located in this big continent called the North America, the United States. We are rather centrally located, and one of the industries that we have paid particular attention to over the years is the aviation industry, aerospace, aviation in Colorado. I hope that the sponsors have had time to rethink this, but I do ask again for your support of L029.
Thank you. I'd also note that Centennial Airport is home to Boom Supersonic, which just sold 15 zero-carbon supersonic aircraft to United Airlines. Congratulations to Boom Supersonic.
Wow.
Changing the world. Senator Lundeen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you heard earlier that don't worry, said the sponsors. Hangars, aviation's already carved out. Not really. The re-engrossed bill says, with regard to carve-outs, a storage facility, standalone parking garage, or airplane hangar that lacks heating and cooling. Most of these hangars are conditioned space. They have heating and cooling. They are therefore included. The amendment is therefore necessary. The task force should, in fact, address this perspective. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I re-energize my call for support of amendment, I think it was L029.
The chair certainly appreciates the puns. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, members, I will point out the portion of this bill that already exempts what this amendment is trying to do. Again, pointed out to the gentleman who's been working voraciously for months to get this in there. It's the top of page 8 in the, well, I guess the unedited, unrevised, pre-amended version from Finance. It's lines 1 through 3. A building in which more than half of the gross floor area is used for manufacturing, industrial, or agriculture purposes is exempt. So what that means is, assuming aviation is an industry, which I pointed out in email this past weekend, they're exempt because more than half of the gross square footage, I assume, in any kind of hangar, aviation related, would qualify. So it's already in the bill. There is no reason for L029. Ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion of Amendment L029? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L029. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The noes have it. That amendment is lost. Senator Lundeen.
Mr. Chair, I must object. I heard an amplification of a human voice. I think that is beyond the rules.
It was like a sonic boom. Again, congratulations to Boom Supersonic for selling 15 aircraft to United Airlines. Changing the world. $2 fine, Senator Priola. Is there any further discussion of House Bill 1286? Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I promised you a little bit more expansive conversation around the bill. I do this simply because it intersects with a theme that we have heard over and over and over again. I would say we heard this theme on potentially one of the biggest bills that we dealt with earlier this year, and that was what was billed as the transportation bill, Senate Bill 260. But when you lifted the hood on the transportation bill, you looked inside and saw, it's not about roads and bridges so much after all. It's about global climate change and climate justice. This is another one of those bills that is chasing after a chimera. It's seeking to do something that cannot be done. Here's what the bill does. The bill simply says we must improve the energy efficiency of buildings because that's going to save the planet. The reality is the United States of America produces about a little less than 13% of all global emissions. Colorado produces less than 2%, 1.8% of all U.S. emissions. So we're fractional, dramatically fractional to the world situation. And buildings produce 2.9% of all Colorado emissions. So if you do the math and walk it all the way down, it's 0.05% of the impact on the U.S. emissions that this bill would have. Now, the good news is this bill is one of the above. If we do everything we can possibly do legislatively, we might, in fact, achieve 100% of global emission control. If you work the math backwards, and this is the critical point, this is the threshold point, if this bill happened, it would take another 200,000 bills of this nature to bring Colorado to 100% of the required energy standard. Think about that for a second. This bill is 1/200,000th of the solution, and yet it will create incredible economic disruption. It misses the mark. It pursues something that it cannot attain nor achieve. We heard, and I think we'll probably get a chance to chat about this, but we had the opportunity to advise the governor on some appointments to the Air Quality Commission the other day, and quite frankly, the feedback from that group of individuals was really quite interesting. We talked a little bit about the standards, the greenhouse gas emission standards, the standards that have been set that we, based on law, are supposed to be attaining. And consistently, the answer was, well, we're not certain we're going to be able to do that, but at least we're trying to move in the right direction. Well, fair enough, but I think at some point this body needs to say, the standards we've set, the law we've created, the marks to which we are holding ourselves, industry, the economy, and everyone, are either valid and attainable, or we are chasing after a chimera. And we should carefully evaluate what is the cost. What is the cost in other aspects of our society? So I rise in opposition to this bill as an indicator, as one in a theme of what I think is a challenged set of assumptions that we actually need to be honest with ourselves. In the world of business, we say, bad news can't wait. You need to actually manage for what is, not what you wish it were. So much of what passes in this building, as does House Bill 1286, desires something, seeks something, says it will achieve something, but in fact, it's a shadow of what it says it will do. And we need to be honest about that. We need to actually acknowledge, yeah, does it potentially have a de minimis movement in a direction that might be beneficial? Possibly, but at what cost? I urge your opposition to House Bill 1286. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that stirring speech in support of Senate Bill 200, Senator. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, again, I rise in support of House Bill 1286. There was an article by Charles Perry, who's in the real estate business. You might find it online, June 3rd, 2021. And he lines out, I won't read it in detail, just about the savings that property owners and tenants can enjoy pursuing this kind of program. As I said in finance, it's not about is there a way, the old saying my father had, if there's a will, there's a way, because there is a way, the way exists. What we're lacking is the will. 1286 provides that will. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion of Senate Bill 1286? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1286. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and that bill is adopted.
can move it.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please, we rise and report.
The motion before the body is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the committee will please rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs this report has had under consideration the following tax bills being the second reading thereof, makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1005 as amended, House Bill 1014 as amended, 1271 as amended, 1285 as amended, 1286 as amended, passed on second reading and order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading, final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
Motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1005 is amended, House Bill 1014 is amended, House Bill 1271 is amended, House Bill 1285 is amended, House Bill 1286 is amended, passed on second reading, order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Mr. Majority Leader.
So let's just go into a recess until like
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we are waiting on the House to send us a couple of House bills. For some reason, they took up a Senate bill on thirds. It might take a little while before that. So we're going to check in on what's going on and when to expect those House bills. We have a couple of other bills here that we are going to do, but we are going to break for a little while. Make sure those conference committees have done their thing, let people get some lunch if they need to, and then we will come back to pick up where we are with what's on the calendar. Hopefully by then we'll have an answer on when these House bills are coming over, so we can send those to a committee as well. So, Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand in a recess until 2 o'clock today.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will stand in recess until 1400 hours today.